So I think a lot of us growing up want to be entrepreneurs. I'm sure you growing up, you may have an entrepreneur mindset, especially if you're watching this channel. And I was the same way. I mean, growing up, I would always talk about business. I would talk to my friends about like how can we make money, what kind of business should we start. I mean, and it started young. It started when I was probably in middle school, junior high, and it was just a constant conversation. It was video games, girls, and business. Business was probably on the top end of it, especially as I got older. And there's a big split, there's a big divide. So I think when everybody that wants to talk about business and get into business, it starts young typically, and there's a big break, and it's usually in college or high school, which is probably typical. And the divide goes from one end, which is the people that just continue to talk about it and they don't follow through. They follow down that path of talking about it, analysis paralysis. They never follow through with this big idea, and the idea could be worth hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, but they just talk about it. They love the idea of being an entrepreneur, but they don't like the journey of becoming an entrepreneur, which I understand. I mean, it's not one for the faint of hearted. It's difficult in my opinion, and it's something that you have to consistently work out every day. And then the other side of it, which is the people that start it, and maybe they don't make money in the beginning, maybe they lose money in the beginning, but they just got started. And I think that's probably the hardest part, is switching from the talking about it, the analysis paralysis, over to just starting the idea. And my journey really starts when I was probably in early high school. Always had these ideas, always brought them to my parents, and I probably talked to them about some like business idea or concept probably once a week. And I remember every time I'd give them an idea, they would just scoff. I mean, they would just be like, okay, another one of Max's ideas, another business thing that he wants to do. It was never really taken seriously. And so I remember probably my first deals that I started doing were cars. My family was in the car world. My dad worked at a car auction. My grandpa worked in the car business. My cousins and uncles worked in the car business. So it was huge in my family. And so I was surrounded by cars all the time. So my first set of deals were flipping cars or helping people sell cars just on the side, random individuals. I'd buy a car from somebody, get it for a really good deal and then sell it. So I did that a couple times. And then I even went to people and said, I'll help you sell your car. And then I did, and I got like a little percentage, a little kickback or something. And then I remember in probably middle of high school, maybe towards the end, I had saved up money. At that point, I was working in a restaurant. I remember at the time I was a busser, so I would work there typically on the weekends. I'd work there like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I'd work there at the nights on the weekdays. I wasn't working 10 hours, maybe like 20, 25 hours. And I remember while I was there, I was just like, I want to work for myself. I want to work for myself. Every single day I tell myself, I want to do something of my own. I want to do something of my own. I don't want to work for somebody. And I was just stacking up money. I mean, I didn't really spend too much money. I had nothing to really spend it on. I was in high school. But I had the opportunity, probably middle of high school, to flip a boat. I got a call from a friend, and he was part of a dealership, and he said, hey, I have this Supra, and we can't sell it. There's like a crack somewhere on the boat, and so for this reason, we are unable to sell it. Do you want it? So at the time, my entrepreneur mind was kicking in. I was like, okay, it's time to start really working on some deals. So I asked 3 questions. I said, how much can I buy it for? How much do you think it's worth? And then how soon can I buy it? He told me the numbers. He told me that I could buy it for, I think it was $14,500. He thought it was worth about $20,000 at the time. And you can come pick it up tomorrow. So he told me this, and I was immediately like, well, no brainer. If I can buy a boat for under what it's worth, of course I'm gonna do that. So the next day, I was in the showroom. I was a 17-year-old kid signing papers on buying a boat that I was gonna flip. And I was sitting there with my girlfriend, my wife, and she was just sitting there in disbelief that somebody was just buying a boat to flip it, and like the risk. Well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And that's I would say that's pretty typical mindset for people. Most people would have that same mindset, but for me, I was like, I just see the opportunity. So we finished with the boat. I didn't even see it that day. I never saw the boat. And then I had it shipped to the auction, My dad worked at the auction. He worked at a car auction, but they sold boats sometimes too. So I asked him if we could run it through, and he said, yeah, we could try to figure it out. So I had a ship there. I went there on a Saturday to go look at it, which was that Saturday. I probably bought it on Friday. And I looked at it, and we're like, okay, if we want to like get best dollar, we could fix all this stuff. I looked around at it, and it's quite a bit of stuff. And I was like, you know what? Let's just run it through and see what it does. So we run the boat through the auction on Tuesday, so 3 days later, and it sells for $16,500. So I made it sold for $17,000. So I made $2,500 on it, and I was like, all right, that sounds good to me. We'll call that deal done. So that was my first opening into like fast deals, and realizing that if there's an opportunity to just take it, if you realize and know and you've done the numbers on it being a really good opportunity, you just have to take it. So the next opportunity presented itself when I was later in high school, and I had somebody approach me and say they wanted to start a video production company. So we sat down, we got coffee, and he gave me some of his background. At the time, I was filming some videos for myself just for fun. We had a family friend that had a dealership that had some higher end cars, so every Saturday, we weren't making any money. We would go and film cars for them. We would just like shoot the content, we'd do reviews on these cars and post them on YouTube. We weren't making any money. We're just trying to like start something. It was always this idea of like, what can we start next? So we had this YouTube channel. We're getting a couple subscribers. I think at the time we were at like 2,000 doing these car reviews. And we sat down with this guy, and he's like, hey, I'm doing something similar. I'm filming, this YouTube content, but what if we started a video production company? And we started with this dealership that you're working with, because he was working with them as well. He was doing some videos with them as well. And so that day we're like, all right, this is it. We're going to start this idea. We called it Mars Media, the video production company. We started with that one client. And I remember after that, I was like, all right, let's get some more clients. Let's start getting this business going. So I would just ask family and friends, say, hey, do you know anybody that is in this business, or anybody that owns a business or whatever, and try to get my foot in the door. And so we started to pick up some real estate clients and some dealership groups, and we grew it. We grew it to a good size. And then at one point, my partner at the time didn't like how the partnership was going, so he said, I want you to buy me out. So at that point, I never bought anybody out. I've never, gone through anything like that before. So I remember he sat me down and he said, I want to end this partnership, or I want you to buy me out of this partnership. Here's the contract. He just slid it across the table. And I said, let me look at this. Let me review it. Let me, bring it to my lawyer. And because at the time I just had somebody I had to ask questions to. He's a lawyer. And my partner said, you're going to sign this today, or I'm going to sue you. I didn't know much at the time, but I was like, well, he probably can't sue me for anything. I can't imagine what it was. He gave some reasoning for something. And I said, well, I'm going to talk to my lawyer about this. If everything looks good, we'll come back and, we'll sign it, we'll finish this up. So I was completely open to the idea. Lesson of that one was, thank God I had my lawyer look at it. And if somebody gives you a document, you have to have a lawyer look at it, because he was trying to get essentially 4 times the value for his portion than what it's worth. He just created some random number in his brain on what he thought his portion of the company was worth. And it wasn't a ton at the time. It was still a really small company. I think he wanted like 80,000 or something, and maybe his portion was worth like 20,000. So we went back and forth a little bit, and finally came to the number that was like reasonable. We just did some sort of multiplier on the net profit and the clients and stuff like that. And I ended up paying him $20,000 to buy his portion of the equipment and the name and whatever else that came with that. I just ran it by myself, had the clients, started growing it, started hiring people to join the team. And then my brother approached me, and he said, he was working at a dealership at the time, just in the service bay. I think he's just delivering parts. And he said, hey, I got this interesting idea on a car rental business. And I was like, what are you talking about? We're not going to start a car rental business. Are you kidding me? And so he shows me this video, is a YouTube video of Turo, and this guy is making all this money on Turo. I watched the video and my eyes just like were so wide. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is such a good idea. We can spend money on these cars, and we can rent them out and make all this money. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of money because I just bought my partner out, but I had just enough to where we could each split one car together. It was a player slingshot, And we did. I mean, that within a couple days of that, we went out and bought this Polaris slingshot. We're so excited. And the funny thing about it is we'd made every single mistake that I will not make again in the beginning. Point being is, if you're gonna get into a business, even if you make mistakes in the beginning, or if you're really afraid to make mistakes, you don't want to get started, you're going to make mistakes no matter what. No matter how much analysis you do, no matter how much preparation you have, you're going to make mistakes. It's either you start it now and you learn from the mistakes and you continue to move on, and you're 10 times farther than where you are if you start in 10 months, and then you still have to make some of those mistakes, and then you have to start from the beginning. So we started the car rental business. We started with one car, and it's renting out okay. It was a slingshot. It's like an outdoor car. Maintenance was expensive. It was a convertible. It wasn't a convertible. There's no top on it, and it was the summer. We bought it in the summer. It was 110 degrees out, and so we made like $1,000 a month. And we're like, this is amazing. We're making so much money. So the next car in the fleet was my personal car. I put my 2014 Ford Fusion. Had like 110,000 miles, and we started renting that out. And we're like, this is sweet. It was consistently booked out, and I didn't have a car. I had no car at the time, so I'd either Uber, or if my mom wasn't using her car, I'd use her car, or I'd have friends drive me around to various places. Not that I really needed many rides, because I was working from home. Since those two were gone, we're like, okay, well, it's time to get a third. So we got a loan from my mom. She gave us a loan of, I think it was like $5,000. I said, Mom, we need this money, and then we'll pay you right back. And she was very, very, very hesitant, like very hesitant on it. Made all these promises. I think we even made like a little contract or something, and she did it. And so we took that. We bought our next car, and we paid her back with all the money that we had coming in. So we paid her back within like a couple months, and then it kind of just snowballed. So then we got our next car and our next car and our next car, and it started out we're both living at our parents' house. Then my brother got his own house, so we moved all the cars there. And at the time of us moving, we had like 6 cars. We continued to grow it. I was still growing my media company, and then we got to the point where we're at 12 cars. And we're like, okay, this is quite a bit of cars. His neighbors were kind of weird about it. They're asking a bunch of questions, and they're very concerned about the cars. And I was too. I mean, I wouldn't want 12 cars on my street. And so it's kind of a weird situation. So we were like, okay, we probably need an office. So we looked around. We found this lot. Okay, so it's this, if you've seen my older videos, you've seen it. But this office space is like 800 square feet. 3 offices in it, and then it had a small private lot that we could rent as well. Went to the guy, and they said they want like $1,400 for the office and the lot. And so I tried to negotiate my entrepreneur mindset. I was like, okay, we'll do it for $1,000. We'll do it for $1,200. Like I was trying to work a deal on this. And they said, no, like this is what we're asking. Like take it or leave it. And I was like, all right, we're gonna leave it for now, thinking that maybe they'll come back and we could work out a deal. And they didn't. So fast forward. 2 or 3 weeks later, we hadn't found anything. There's nothing as good as that one. So we went back to him and said, hey, we'll take the deal. And at that time, it went from $1,400 or whatever it was to almost $2,000. And so we're like, well, can we go back to the original deal? Nope, this is it. Take it or leave it. So we took the deal. Okay, so another lesson. If you find something good, again, just make sure you take it. And we moved in, and it was in a dodgy part of town. It was in like a really rough area. When we first moved in, the private gate that we had like an opening in it. And I remember the first night we parked like however many cars were at my brother's house, probably 3 cars. The others were rented out. And we come to the office the next day. We put a deadbolt on the gates, but there's still an opening on the side, so somebody could just walk in from like the open lot and go into the back private lot. We get to the thing the next morning, and there's like liquid under the cars. Like, oh, that's strange. Why would there be liquid? So we look, we smell it, it's gas. We look in the gas tank, and there's holes. Somebody punctured holes in 2 of our car's gas tanks. One was a 2020 Jeep Cherokee, and one was a 2016 Ford Fiesta. And we're like, oh my gosh, that is bad. So we took those to the shop, we got those fixed, and that day we went and got a huge board that we could put up and block that entrance. When we moved in, there's also a lot of homeless people there. So every day or every other day, we'd have to call the cops and get them out. I mean, it was a huge issue. Fast forward, we were there for a while. We got up to like 23, 24 cars, and our lease was going to end, a year-long lease. And I had a couple relationships at the time with some business owners in the tour space, and one of them had like a 150 car fleet in South Bus near the airport, or close-ish to the airport. It's still pretty far. And so I was like, hey, what if we came in, did a deal here? What if we came in and shared the space? And so we sat down and we started brainstorming on what that would look like. And the initial conversation was, we'll merge companies, okay? So we'll put these companies together. We'll be under, we would be under his company because his was bigger, his made more money, so we thought. And so that was the initial conversation. So we're like, all right, let's look at the actual numbers. Let's look at the net profit and determine like if this can really happen. So he showed us his books. We looked at both the books. In his books, some of the because there's all like a spreadsheet and like it's all calculated. Some of the numbers were weird, like manually inputted. So we're like, okay, how'd you come up with this? And we come to find out after about a 2 weeks of like digging into the numbers, doing our due diligence, that the business was not profitable. So we saw that and we said, well, we should probably just operate together and keep financials and companies completely separate. We'll just have the same office space, we'll have the same employees. So that's what we did. I mean, we didn't want to merge companies that, one was profitable, one was not. I mean, it just didn't commingle. So we had the same office. It started January 1st, and then we ran it for a little bit, and then in February, we had a conversation with the guy that ran it. We're talking, and during the conversation, we found out that he wanted to terminate his company. So we dug into it. We had a little conversation, and he just said, I'm done with this business, so I'm going to shut it down. What was tough about that was we had 2 days. He didn't tell us what the time frame was, but he said, I'm going to talk to a couple people, and then just be ready. Like, I'm probably going to shut this down fast. But the word fast to me, I didn't have any context. I didn't know what that meant. But when he said fast, he meant 2 days. We had 2 days to get our stuff out. We had that conversation at the end of the day. And remember, I got into the office the next day at like 7:30 or 8 a.m. And he had people literally moving all their stuff at the office. Like all their stuff. And I was like, whoa, that is crazy. I mean, I got there and half the office was completely emptied out at 8 in the morning. So I was like, okay, I guess we have to move now, because I thought we'd have a little bit of a break, a little bit of room to figure it out and plan it out. And so I found that out, and I called our now partner, and I said, hey, do you guys have any space at the office? He's like, yeah, we got some space. We talked about it in the past. We were initially deciding between this guy or the other guy, our current partner and our old partner, on like where we'd go after our lease ended at our first place. And so we called our new partner, and we're like, you have space? He said, yes. I said, can we, operate together to some degree? Can we bring cars over? He's like, yeah, of course. Just, when do you want to come by? When do you want to, start working on this? I said, how about today? Probably a little bit of a laughing conversation, but he's like, sure. Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's have you guys come over. So we literally, I had my dad help, my mom help, my, I think she's still girlfriend at the time, help. I had my brother, his girlfriend. I had some friends help. Like, we had a huge posse of people, and we were just moving cars from old office to new office, old office to new office. It was like 2 days of moving cars, and then we had all of our stuff. So we're doing tons and tons of trips. And finally, we made it. We made it in 2 days. We made the whole transfer of time. We're probably at 30 cars. We had like 2 offices full of like stuff. I mean, they're fully furnished. And so we get here, and we start working out the details, and we could just immediately see the operation was just ran properly. Like, there weren't as many hiccups. So we started working here, and since then, because it's only been a short while, we've grown. We're about 65 cars now. We're probably getting close to a 7-figure business, and we've just been scaling like crazy. Super good operation. But the last chapter of my journey, and this is probably the most recent thing, is the car rental business opened me up into real estate. And the real estate actually started when I was 21, maybe 22, and I bought my first condo. I needed a place to live, and I couldn't sign myself. I had to have my dad co-sign for me. Shout out to my dad. And he co-signed very, very reluctantly, just because, adults with kids, what are they going to do? Very reluctantly co-signed for me. Said, I trust you. I'll do this for you. And so he did. Thank you very much. and bought that. I lived in it for a while with my girlfriend at the time, and then I moved out and I started renting it out. I started Airbnb-ing it, got my license and everything, and then from there, me and my brother with this car rental business, we started making a little bit of money, or the business started making a little bit of money. So we're like, we should start getting into real estate. So at the time, I was on Facebook. I was in like these real estate Facebook groups, and this guy posted a thing and said, "Hey, I'm selling my Airbnb property, and here are the numbers." And I'd been looking for a couple weeks, just at numbers and really doing analysis on everything. And I saw the numbers. I'm like, "Whoa, if this is real, this is a really good deal." And I looked at how much does it cost to buy, and then how much is it going to make me. And the numbers were just crazy. Like, it was just super, super good. So reached out to him. And at first I was very, very, very hesitant. I asked thousands of questions. We negotiated between like me asking questions, me wanting him to show me things, like show me the financials, show me the book, show me the QuickBooks, show me the P&L, show me the balance sheet. I wanted everything. Like, it was 2 months of looking at doing the due diligence and then negotiating like what the deal looks like. Because typically I won't walk into a deal and just take what's there. I'll walk into a deal and negotiate it. Always negotiate it. And so we finally worked out a deal. Two months of negotiation. We ended on December 1st. That's when we like closed on me buying the portion of the property, because I bought half of it. So we're partners in on it. And the first month that I bought it, it was a $300,000 house in Pennsylvania. I live in Arizona, so it's far, far, far away. And first month it grossed $10,000, netted almost $6,000. And so I saw that and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So since then, that was in December. We're now in September, so close to a year. We've been buying properties out there. We're just closed on our third. We're looking at our fourth right now. It's just been, that's kind of our next thing, along with the car rentals, is getting into real estate rentals. So I think I've made a lot of mistakes in my journey. I'll have to do another video talking about just the mistakes I made, because there are hundreds. I mean, I've made a mistake at every single turn, it feels like sometimes. And sometimes mistakes pile up, and there'll be a day where I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's so much going wrong right now. But then there's days where everything's going right. So I think as an entrepreneur, there's kind of a balance in your life and how you feel, because it's never always good and it's never always bad. It's very up and down. So now we're here. I have a 65 car rental business. We have like I have 4 properties right now that we own, and we're going to scale. I think by the end of the year we should be at 100 to 120 cars, hopefully more, but give or take that, probably on a conservative level. We'll probably buy 2 or 3 more houses. Who knows where? Maybe in Pittsburgh, maybe here, possibly multifamily. And I think right now it's vamp up time to like really scale our operations in the Turo space and in the real estate business. I mean, we want to build big businesses, not just small local ones. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my story. I appreciate everybody's support, and I'll see you in the next video.